Precisely the failure of my improvised psychiatric treatments and suggested by professors, therefore strangers, who would certainly have noticed my parents' total lack of interest in my mental health, prompted the latter to try to resolve, with the help of third parties, first the only case of family responsibility in their life, the failure that was turning out to be the raising of their three children. Suggested by friend, my father took all four of us, my mother and me and my two brothers, to a good psychotherapist from Caserta. I really don't know what everyone expected from this doctor already close to his third age, bachelor and with a study full of books and treatises, due to years of experience. Probably both my father and my mother wanted to definite wanted a definitive confirmation of the correctness of their method or no methods of education, and a release from any sense of guilt regarding some of their very understandable and negligible errors of path. The doctor in question, from the first joint session, looked at our anomalous nucleus and defined us as one of the most absurd cases that had ever happened to him in the last 10 or 20 years. He judged my father an incompetent, my mother an incompetent capable, and my mother and my brother Pietro a silent victim of their responsibility, and Matteo a child to be saved as soon as possible from this poisonous circle. And me, who was the focus of everything, what about me? Me that whom my father, clearly irritated, insisted on throwing on as the only flaw of an otherwise immaculate and perfectly normal family life. I don't remember changing more than a word or two with that doctor who aroused an unbearable mistrust. I saw him more prepared than all those I had known until then, but at the same time also sharper, observant, not at all willing to spare himself the most brutal observations, if in his opinion uh, there were to the these were to the advantage of the patient. He had the foresight never to attack me, nor to oppress me with the bursting questions that he reserved for the other two brothers of mine. It was really thanks to him that, for the first time in 5 or 6 years, Peter spoke again about me, saying not to hate me. This was one of the very few things that surprised me during those interviews. In any case, Peter would never talk about me again for the rest of our life together. The rest I could have predicted even from our home. My father whimpered when the doctor called him sheep. My mother even had an hysterical fit when the same insinuated the doubt that she was not a good parent. With all what? With all I have been through, you don't know. You don't know that I only stayed at home for the sake of my children, she said. I would have liked to spit on her just for that melodrama scene of her. On the other hand, the doctor didn't let himself be intimidated and continued with his accusations until she escaped from the study. The sessions lasted no more than a month. I felt more and more sick to stay more than half an hour in the same room with a family I hated. My mother would have found an excuse to no longer be faced with the responsibilities. My father suspected that, my father suspected that those sessions cost little too much, considering the long weekly journey to Caserta. Finally, shouting that Dr. traumatizes my two children who are still healthy, my mother convinced her husband to stop the therapy. I didn't protest because I couldn't wait to go back to my studio isolation, and later mom and dad were able to assure their conscience by saying that the abyss I plunged into the following years was only caused by my inconstancy in following any kind of treatment, psychiatric, they had proposed to me. So be it. I could have done it by myself. I could have changed a bankrupt life just like changing a dress or erasing a page of notes. I still believed in those years that I still believed it in those years that still saw me drunk with youth and hope. Or for the others, I was different because I always wore classic clothes with a shirt, vest, and little shoes. I carefully folded up those vestiges of a cursed era, and in the company of my new friends, having a lot of fun, given my unusual behavior, I went to shops to completely renew my wardrobe with casual clothes at low prices. Jeans, sneakers, sweatshirts with logos and hoods. All served to give me a new identity, a life that had never belonged to me. I took off my glasses to put on blue contact lenses. I took better care of my hair than I had always worn with the side parted before. Mm, In fact, I had always worn my hair with the side parted before. In short, I wanted to be someone else. How much I would have wanted to change my name too, to erase from my view existence, no, from my new existence that Raphael was mild, old, and dirty. After having presented myself to the university with that ridiculous paraphernalia and obtained the amazed and admired comments of my acquaintances, even if dictated more by the surprise for such a sudden change, I waited anxiously for the miracle to walk inside as well. Where was the security I was looking for? Where was the emotional satisfaction that I longed for more than air and water? I was overwhelmed by the knowledge that, dressed like all the other boys, I got even less attention than when I walked around dressed in black and with the small air of a country priest. I have never been beautiful, perhaps without glasses, round face, with white cheekbones and perennially swollen cheeks, like a peasant, which I had inherited from my mother, was also more uncovered. The mediocre result was when then worsened by the small eyes, myopic and perpetually tired. In short, I was not that great. Was not that great. I decided to get a computer, and my first thought was to take a picture of myself to post it on one of the many social sites that were born on the net at the time. I discovered that it was not even photogenic, and anger consumed me. At night in bed, I clenched my fists and gnashed my teeth so as not to cry hard. How was it possible that everything was so remediability, remediably against me, and I was also ready to throw away my university career to finally be like other boys of my age, even gay, so full of friends, life, smiles, and promises. I made an extreme attempt. I proposed my photos to some anonymous guy with whom I texted on some randomly found dating sites. With that exception, the answer was more or less always the same. I don't like you. I'm looking for someone more beautiful and attractive. I spent a few more months um, in those clothes that didn't belong to me, then folded them carefully and put them away in a corner of the wardrobe. I went back to dressing in black to plunge back into that academic life that immediately closed on me with all its exams, professors, classrooms, and deserted corridors. My parents witnessed this fleeing identity of crisis of mine from afar, but of this I'll talk to you in the next video. Thank you for listening and good night.